Welcome to Rev'd Up for Sunday. We're the clergy of St. Mark's Episcopal Church in New Canaan, Connecticut, and I'm Peter Walsh.
I'm John Kennedy.
I'm Elizabeth Garnsey.
And so this is the first time the three of us have been together for a few pods, and welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome back to all of us because we've all been coming and going. And now today, we get welcome back just in time for some really intense stuff about the purposes of God and Jesus comparing himself to a mother hen. So let's take a look at the passage. This is for the second Sunday in Lent, year C. It's Luke chapter 13, verses 31 to 35. Some Pharisees came and said to Jesus, "Get away from here, for Herod wants to kill you." He said to them, "Go and tell that fox for me, listen, I am casting out demons and performing cures today and tomorrow, and on the third day I finish my work. Yet today, tomorrow, and the next day I must be on my way, because it is impossible for a prophet to be killed outside of Jerusalem. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the city that kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to it. How often have I desired to gather your children together as a hen gathers her brood under her wings, and you were not willing. See, your house is left to you. And I tell you, you will not see me until the time comes when you say, 'Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord.'" Okay, so here we are. We're on the way. Jesus making his way to Jerusalem. Herod, the tetrarch who killed John the Baptist, is threatening. We got some Pharisees being friendly. We got Jesus as self-proclaimed prophet, a lament over Jerusalem. It's only a few verses, but it's packed full and full and full with more. What do you make of it?
Well, interesting take that you see the Pharisees being friendly. I'm not sure I see that. I think they just want Jesus to go away. Like, dude, Herod's trying to kill you. Just go somewhere else.
This is an unanswered question.
Right,
here.
it is unanswered.
It's an unanswered question.
But I don't see any other instance of the Pharisees being friendly to Jesus in the Gospels. So.
Are you saying the Pharisees can't be friendly?
Besides a couple, besides like Nicodemus and maybe Gamaliel.
Just a few guys.
Yeah, but it could go either way. But I just thought that was an interesting.
Yeah.
I think it is a question mark. I mean, across the Gospels, the Pharisees are characterized as in and out of Jesus' life. He goes to eat at one of their homes, and they're not like bad people. They're just bad religious people, like the wizard and the Wizard of Oz.
Interesting.
But I don't know.
I'm liking this early take on a little bit of ambiguity over these Pharisees who come and say.
But I do think I'm kind of with John that in Luke they're usually pretty antagonistic.
Agree. Okay, I'll agree with that. Agree with that.
Yeah, it is a good occasion to highlight that the Pharisees are not as bad as they're often imagined to be. That they're not really involved in, let's say, the plot to kill Jesus. I mean, sometimes they're implicated, but generally speaking, they're not in with the temple establishment and Herod and Pilate and so on, and the Romans who actually conspire.
Even Paul self-identifies as a Pharisee.
Exactly.
Were you about to say that?
But he was killing Christians.
Yeah, but then he didn't say I was a Pharisee. He went on to say I am a Pharisee.
Oh, he still claimed it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I don't think he disowned it.
Yeah, this is a very interesting topic. I was, my first trip to the Holy Land with the Anti-Defamation League of Connecticut, and I was in the back of the bus, and I was with a rabbi from Northwest Connecticut in the corner.
Oh, wow.
And we were sitting in the back of the bus. I had never met him, Eric. What a great guy. And he said to me, "Well, where'd you go to seminary?" And I said, "Oh, I went to the Berkeley Divinity School at Yale." And he said, "Oh, I went to the Yale Divinity School." I said, "You did what? Why'd you go to the Yale Divinity School?" He goes, "Oh, yeah. He goes, to study the Pharisees." He said, "There's no notations of the Pharisees in any of the Hebraic literature. So it's only in the New Testament that we learn about the Pharisees." And he said, so there's many segments of Judaism that study the New Testament in order to learn about their religion.
Interesting.
During the time of Jesus.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, so we spent a long time on the Pharisees. We're on to the second word in the passage here. Okay, what comes next?
Well, I mean, I love the confrontation of it, and I love how Jesus' comeback is so, go and tell that fox for me. It's just so direct and vivid, Listen, I'm casting out demons. Like he knows what he's doing, and he's not about to budge according to their, they're prodding and stuff. So, I mean, it's clearly like a passion prediction here. And some writers call it a disguised passion prediction, but I don't think there's anything disguised about a 3-day plan and being done on the third day. It just seems a little bit obvious. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, the Fox language is very interesting. I think it operates in two ways, maybe more, but at least two. And one is that it's an insult. Herod is a king or a tetrarch, thinks of himself as a king. Reminds me of some people today. And, the animal image you want ascribed to you as a royal figure is a lion, right? And this is a biblical image. You see it, King Solomon's throne has all these lions on it, as detailed in the first book of Kings. And then, of course, later in Revelation, Jesus is likened to a lion, the lion of the tribe of Judah. So this is the royal image. And foxes are like these, they're these small little scurrying creatures. They're predators to small animals, but not a flattering image for a king. So there's that. And then to that predatory element, I think Jesus is identifying Herod as some sort of predator too, and this connects to the mother hen image.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm with you on both those things, and I think it's important. I mean, I think it's fun to see Jesus insulting somebody. We always think of Jesus as like, I won't say we, but back to my 4th grade CCD class with Jesus airbrushed with a kid on his knee, right? And here he's calling Herod a fox. And history shows that Herod was a scheming character, and that the other thing that I had picked up was that in some Talmudic literature, there was a rabbi who died, and when the rabbis gather, the person giving the eulogy says, well, he was a lion and we're foxes. And by what he means like that is he was the real deal and we're imposters. And so you get, and Herod, of course, Herod and Antipas wanting to be a king, like his father wanted to be a king, but they're imposters, right? They're not the real deal. They're not kings of anything. And certainly, he called it the way it was, and he was right. I mean, there's Jesus speaking the truth as a prophet. He called it.
Yeah. There's a whole menagerie in the Old Testament about cunning and clever and destructive animals, the serpent and all that.
Nice call. Good call.
Jesus uses fox and Jesus picks hen as a purposeful kind of juxtaposition, right? The two different approaches to protecting and gathering and orienting the people around God or against God. And and Herod's paranoid. I mean, he already killed John the Baptist, and so I think it's true probably that Herod wanted to kill Jesus, but I think that the Pharisees are kind of like, as you said, just get out of our hair. This is not really contending with you.
To that one and that unanswered question, because Jesus does send the Pharisees back to Herod. So whether or not they came from Herod would be one of the questions. True. Or when he says, "You go tell that fox."
Right.
Okay, so shifting gears here, but let's talk about Jerusalem. Jerusalem is a key player in the whole drama here. And that's Jesus is on his way to Jerusalem. Major motif in Luke's gospel in 9:51. He turns his chin, sets his resolute face toward Jerusalem. And Luke loves to talk about Jerusalem in the fullness of its symbolism. It's referred to 90 times in Luke Acts and less than 50 in all the rest of the New Testament biblical literature. It's something I read this morning I was surprised by. Also heard while I was exercising with the podcast in my ears this morning that Jerusalem is referred to 800 times in the Bible. And if you add other motifs like Mount Moriah and Zion and all that stuff, it's 1,100. So Jerusalem, this is a big deal.
Yeah, it's the center.
Yeah, it's the center.
Yeah, it is the center, and Luke has perhaps a not uniquely, but a particularly geographic focus and framing for his story among the evangelists and indeed among all the New Testament authors. It's sort of like a concentric circle sort of thing that obviously Jesus is born in Nazareth, but he's presented in the temple, or born in Bethlehem, grows up in Nazareth, but is presented in the temple as a boy, and the temple is again the center of Jewish life, and in some ways the center of this narrative as Jesus is moving towards it. And then that's of course where Jesus dies, where he is raised, and then where the Holy Spirit is given, and then the mission just expands outward and outward and outwards.
Right. Good call.
Sort of a microcosm of the macro and all that, but the universal vision and mission of Jesus, and indeed of Luke, still sort of has this focal point in Jerusalem, or at least it does for a significant chunk of the action. So certainly seeing that there. But there's an ambivalence about Jerusalem, because Jerusalem is the holy city, but it's also the city that kills the prophets, that rejects the people that God sends to it. And this isn't, of course, new. A new phenomenon with Jesus's coming to Jerusalem and coming to the people of God, but this has been going on for centuries, and we see it throughout the Hebrew scriptures. The prophet Zechariah killed another prophet, Uriah, talked about in Jeremiah, killed, among others, for speaking the truth to power, for calling kings and other rulers of Judah or of Jerusalem, or of northern Israel, but we're talking about Jerusalem here, to follow the law of God, almost always, maybe indeed always, framed in terms of doing justice for the vulnerable and the marginalized, and to the extent and forbidding idolatry, which all these things go together, because idolatry in the Hebrew scriptures is linked with sort of self-indulgence and greed and so on. So justice is really the center of what the people of God, and indeed the rulers of the people of God, are called to. And the prophets are people who are raised up to say, you're kind of going astray here. Let's come back to the path. And if you don't, some kind of destruction is coming. And Jesus is in that pattern here. So yeah, it's an old pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot to that. You want to take a bite out of that?
Okay, sure. I mean, I think it's interesting here that Jesus doesn't zero in on, Jerusalem, the holy city set upon a hill. He is seeing the lens of the place where prophets go to die, and he knows that's where he's headed. And this has kind of allusions to Psalm 121. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. I think that's the right psalm. And this is Jesus's lament. I mean, he doesn't have too many open laments in the Gospels, and this one, he's really, you can feel the pathos here, and the idea that he's wanted to gather children together as a hen. I mean, he's talking about all the children of Jerusalem, not just like his own followers.
Yeah, the people of God.
And I think that's very, very interesting. And so in this whole passage, I think that the way he's calling Herod a fox, and he himself is like a hen, he's not choosing to pit himself against Herod. He's just choosing to stay his course and be like the nonviolent gatherer of people. And that's his whole purpose, is to like make everybody one, make humanity one, and people don't want that. We want to divide ourselves up and be gathered under our little totems of tribal labels and stuff. And, in the Gospels, Herod is on that side, and the Pharisees are like that, wanting to just make sure everyone's following their program. And you get Caiaphas in John saying, it's better for him to be killed so we can all gather around and be at peace. And, it's this very tribal way against Jesus's, I want all the chickens to come under my wings. Yes. And he means everyone. He means the Pharisees and Herod and everybody else. And I found that it's such a powerful but too subtle of an image. I always wish the Gospels were much more, I don't even know if they understood it that way themselves, but I feel as history moves forward, we see these patterns again and again and again, and it just becomes more clear, at least to me, that this is what he was about. And I always wish it was a bit more clear.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, it's one of the powerful paradigms and commentaries you bring, and it's really had an enormous effect on me, because we've had these conversations over the years now. There's so much. Again, we're in just a few little verses crammed in here. I mean, I think Jesus is completely dismissive of Herod.
Yes.
He doesn't. I mean, Herod is like a fly buzzing around. Go tell that fox. He doesn't even. He is not intimidated by Herod at all. This is the purposes of God. He's focused, and he self-identifies as a prophet. And just take a look at, prophets are killed. I mean, it's slightly overstated that all the prophets are obviously killed in Jerusalem, but not completely overstated. And you named a few. I mean, I stumbled on something again this morning when I opened up a folder of sermons I'd preached in the past on this topic, and I noted that Isaiah of Jerusalem was sawed in two and buried near the pool of Siloam. Jeremiah was stoned to death, and all this stuff we're talking about here, this is really Jeremiah. Jeremiah spoke about these words. In some ways, Jesus is mimicking those words, and this was before the destruction of Jerusalem in 586 and the Babylonian, the Babylonian captivity. But other prophets, Ezekiel, Micah, and Amos, were all murdered. Zechariah was murdered, right outside there, and Jesus is going to be murdered in Golgotha, outside the walls of Jerusalem. And so the speaking this truth, this justice truth you're talking about, this the God truth, the purposes of God, Jesus says, as you said, he's right in this stream of the prophetic stream. And this is HQ for all of that stuff, and it's the purposes of God. I think one of the uncomfortable things here for us, but the New Testament is pretty clear about it, is when he says that you're rejecting the prophets, you're rejecting me, the prophet, the ultimate prophet, and I'm going to leave you to yourselves, and forsaking
Powerful
the city.
Statement.
And that in the New Testament, the destruction, the tearing of the temple curtain, which we think of as God leaving the temple. We have many different theologies of that. And then later, this is at Jesus' death, of course, and then later the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD, that the purposes of God are fulfilled in this. I mean, this is not a place that a lot of us like to be, but the New Testament definitely leans that way.
Yes. Yeah, I think as uncomfortable as it indeed is, largely because of, history of anti-Semitism and so on that has followed, as uncomfortable as that is, it's clearly in the New Testament, and it's plain as day here, right? See, your house is left to you. And house here has resonances with, as you said, the proclamations, the prophetic proclamations of Jeremiah, that your house will be left to you. This is Jeremiah 22. If you will not heed these words, I swear by myself, says the Lord, that this house shall become a desolation. And that could either mean the royal palace or the temple or both, but they're very linked, both sort of politically and theologically. So Jesus is clearly picking up on that language here. And obviously, Jeremiah was foretelling judgment, the destruction of the first temple. So that is in there. But that when God's judgment is spoken of this way, it's leaving his people to reap what they've sown, right? It's not active judgment like whispering in the ear of the Babylonians in the case of Jeremiah. Hey, go attack those people in Jerusalem. No, it's more organic.
It's self-destruction.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah. He leaves us to our self-destruction.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to have PTSD here. So my mom was a truth teller, and I can't remember what I did, but it wasn't good. And she said to me, well, you've made your own bed, now sleep in it.
Exactly.
I was like, thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Appreciate the compassion. Kind of thing. It's the same sort of thing here.
Right.
I mean, what you're both talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important point to highlight when people are wondering, is God violent? Was Jesus violent? And to me, that recurring image of God violent, it's, if you really scrutinize the passages, it's never God actually hurling the swords or the fire bombs or whatever. I mean, it's people bringing upon themselves their own demise. And I think that's what Jesus is lamenting here. He wants to be the hen gathering. And, I think notably the word protecting, even though I used it in the beginning of the podcast, I didn't really mean to, because protection's not here. Jesus is about gathering, and he's going to be the one giving himself over to the foxes. And, he's not protecting like a lion or a leopard or anything like that. So I think that we want a protector. So that's why it's so hard to accept Jesus's strategy, of this peaceful, nonviolent self-sacrifice. So it's a painful way, but it's the risky only way, really.
Well, we're on the way here. You can see. I mean, he connotes that on the third day, that figurative language. You can see that the end of his time is coming. It's almost as though if you try to lay it out. I mean, you were talking about Luke in geography. His geography, of course, is theography, right? It's theogeography. The place has meaning. It looks and it sounds almost as though he's. I can't remember the name of the district. It's like Perea or something like that. Like he's right on the edge of Galilee and he's still in Herod's territory. So to get out of there means just to get out of Herod's territory, which would then bring you to the territory where John the Baptist was, and then into Judea and up the hill. But he's clearly coming to the end here.
Yeah. I want to dive a little bit more into the mother hen image, especially because you tied this proclamation of judgment to something your mother said to you. really funny tie-in here.
And Feely Walsh.
But yeah, we've already said some really good things about it. And Elizabeth, I was really struck by what you said earlier, that you wish this image was stronger. The contrast between the ways of Jesus and, let's say, the ways of Herod and the ways of people like Herod. And in N.T. Wright's interpretation of this passage, he sees Jesus as talking about fire. Now, hang with me for a second. But of course, Jerusalem would be destroyed in 70 AD in part by fire. It would be set on fire by the Romans. And this is something that really happens, that when animals, in this case chickens, are threatened by fire, if they're trapped in a fire, the mother hen will sometimes gather the chicks under her wings. And there have been accounts of, terrible fires happening, and in the aftermath, finding the dead hen with live chicks under her wings. And that this is Jesus stating his desire and his vocation and his way of bringing salvation. And that, so therefore, this is the strongest image so far, the strongest statement so far in Luke's gospel of what Jesus' death is all about.
Yeah. Now, why couldn't he just come right out and say that?
Right. Where did you pick that up? That is real.
Yeah.
Oh, N.T. Wright. Sorry, I was so captivated.
It's very captivating.
Yeah.
Great
Wow.
image.
Yeah.
Oy.
Amazing.
And great to have a maternal, female image for God here.
Yeah, I love that too. Because you have this, not to overgenderize these things, and certainly I don't mean it in that way, but you have Jesus unintimidated in a kind of strength pose in the, tell that fox, turning right around and being motherly.
Right.
All right next to the other. Again, Jesus not fulfilling. Not you can't put Jesus in a box. He is all of these things.
Yeah, he's so nimble.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to talk over you.
Oh, you talk over me. I don't have anything to say, as the people on the podcast would say.
But you did say, I appreciated earlier how you said Herod's just not that important to Jesus. And he's definitely too insignificant to let him be the one to kill him. For Jesus to really make his point, he has to go all the way to the top, so to speak, and let it be public and, grandiose, grand, if not grandiose. But I don't think Jesus is thinking that way, but he has to undo the whole system, not just Herod's little fiefdom.
Yeah, the purposes of God are the whole system, not whether or not Herod wants to kill him. Right. Herod he's a bit player in a big drama.
He's trying to quell his paranoia.
Yeah, Herod's a nobody. Who's wanting to be a somebody. And interestingly, if you take a look at who is famous in our world today, how about Pontius Pilate, who's a guy who was put in charge of some territory out on the edge of the Roman kingdom there, and he's in the Creed. He's one of the most infamous people of all time. It'd be hard to come up with somebody more well known for being a bad guy than Pontius Pilate. Stumbled upon Jesus and things happened. Okay, Rob wants to wrap up, but I want to come right to the end here. So we get the Benedictus here, just as we're done. He says, "Blessed is the one who comes in the name of the Lord." And I tell you, you will not see me until the time comes when you say. So this is obviously Palm Sunday. We feel that coming. This comes obviously from Psalm 118, where they're having a psalm of thanksgiving in celebration of a king warrior coming into town victorious, and also the way the pilgrims would be arrived in the holy city. People might greet them at the gate for Passover, saying, blessed are those who come in the name of the Lord. And so Jesus proclaims this. Any word about how he finishes up with that? Any thoughts on that?
Well, I do think he is talking about the coming of the Passover, when he'll enter Jerusalem and everyone will come, and that's what he's telling them. It's a timeline thing to me.
Yeah. I think it is at least that, and I kind of feel like maybe it's just because how it struck me initially, but I get the sense that there's something cryptic about it as well, and it reminds me for some reason of statements elsewhere where he'll say, you will see the Son of Man coming on a cloud. It's with reference to some sort of apocalyptic, as in revealing, right? Because apocalypse means to unveil or to reveal of Jesus's identity, such that people can begin to grasp it, particularly those who are unable or unwilling to see him and to receive him presently. And it makes me think also of the centurion who sees Jesus crucified and says, oh, surely this man was the Son of God, or surely this was a righteous man. So I don't know. That's just sort of my speculation.
Yeah. Well, there is disagreement amongst the scholarly community about what exactly is happening here when he says, and I tell you, you will not see me until the time comes when you say. So this is the you-ness of this. Who is the you? Is this the Hebraic leaders? Is this the church? The new temple? Jesus as the new temple. I mean, we were recently up on the top of Mount Tabor, and the cloud descends upon Jesus as the new temple. And so, there's something happening here which is open to interpretation.
Yeah.
Well, the early church, never let this phrase die.
Yeah.
And, we say in our Eucharist, blessed is he who comes. And I think that Jesus, he's saying, you will not see me until, maybe there's always double meanings of see and what it means to see him. So maybe it's something about how they won't truly see him until they really can say, blessed. And so,
Nice. Yeah. Well, everybody, thank you for hanging in here with us. We really are touched by your following along in the midrash that we have amongst us. And we pray that you would have a blessed Lent and follow on the way as we're all following Jesus on the way to Jerusalem in the days to come. So God bless you. Peace be with you. If you feel any need to forward our stuff or type to us, that really stirs our hearts. So God bless you. Take care. See you soon.